Hello, my name's Graham Wilson. I'm a part-time tutor in psychology and counselling at the University of Oxford and a part-time researcher in photography at the University of Gloucestershire. I'd like to introduce a 3-year research programme that I'm about to embark upon, exploring the use of photography to effect change in communities. You may have heard of behavioural economics. It's an emergent field that's led to a couple of Nobel Prizes in the last 15 to 20 years, and a lot of popular attention, particularly for one particular aspect, nudge theory. Behavioural economics tells us that most decisions that we make are heuristic. They're based on pattern recognition, reflecting previous experiences, whether our own or our ancestors, that may have become hardwired through our genes. We delude ourselves that we are logical and that our choices are rational. They quite simply are not. At the interface between psychology, sociology and economics, with a little bit of anthropology thrown in, behavioural economics attempts to identify ways in which individuals within a community may be encouraged to change their behaviour. Applied for social good, it tries to help communities adopt behaviours that improve health and happiness and reduce vulnerability. Behavioural economics experiments have shown that if people encounter something that is both positive and different to the way that they expected, in other words surprising, then they concentrate on it more fully and they remember it for longer. The majority of behavioural economics experiments have relied on words to achieve this, and yet we know that images are often much more powerful in communication than words alone. We also know that illiteracy is a significant problem in many parts of the world. So this project aims to explore the ways in which imagery alone could be used to effect change within communities by drawing on behavioural economics principles. Back in 2000, the United Nations published 8 goals associated with areas of serious concern for the future of the planet. These were updated and expanded in 2015 as 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, to be achieved by 2030. For many of these goals, it's possible to identify clear, practical solutions, usually at grassroots level, that would lead to change. However, these are often held up by a lack of community engagement with the solution. Often the tools that are at the hands of development NGOs draw on evidence, logic and argument. But unfortunately, behavioural economics suggests that even though the outcome might be highly desirable, it's hard to convince individuals, let alone whole communities, to change by reasoning. This research project aims to work with a selection of these agencies, developing pilot studies to demonstrate how imagery can effect this kind of change when logic could not. In order to move beyond simple documentary work, which can raise awareness but not necessarily change anything, photographers keen to have an impact on social issues have adopted a number of collaborative processes within communities. At one end of the spectrum lies the photographer who embeds with a community, who develops the photographic skills of people within it and then supports them as they document aspects of their world. At the other end of the spectrum, and all too common, is the photographer engaged by an NGO to document their work, largely to support fundraising. With this in mind, as part of this project, I'm exploring ways that will achieve a balance between engagement, effectiveness and expense to produce sustainable community change. It's obviously important that the results of this project can be freely extended and applied in other situations without my involvement, and that they too, in other words, can be sustainable. And that's why this work is being carried out in an academic environment. At this stage, I have a provisional sponsor in the form of a development NGO interested in effecting a change in the nutrition standards and ways of preparing food in slum areas in Mozambique. Other projects that have been mentioned include persuading communities in Africa and Southeast Asia especially to provide community creches in a bid to reduce the number of infant drownings, which has reached epidemic proportions in recent years. On a more local level, I've begun to explore alternatives to road safety messaging in 30-mile-per-hour zones and approaches to avoiding flood risk and preventing fires. The number of potential projects is enormous and limited only by my time and personal resources. While the initial projects are viable and will hopefully reach fruition soon, I'm keen to hear from other people who might have a suitable application that we can discuss and potentially develop together, or those whose interests and values are aligned with those of my colleagues and I, and who might be able to provide resources to support us. Here are my email address, Twitter name and telephone number. If you're interested and might be able to help, please do get in touch. Thank you.